Now is Andrew Weissmann, former federal prosecutor. He served as FBI general counsel and chief of the criminal division in the Eastern District of New York. He is an MSNBC legal analyst. Andrew, I want to get your reading of this legal development tonight for Donald Trump. Here you have the New York State Attorney General teaming up, in effect, with the Manhattan District Attorney, sharing resources, sharing information in a criminal investigation of Donald Trump's businesses.
Yeah, so I think something that's important to note is that the New York Attorney General generally only has civil authority, with one important exception, and that is something called the Martin Act. Viewers may remember that Eliot Spitzer, when he was the New York Attorney General, used the Martin Act a lot. People think that the Martin Act only covers securities and commodities fraud, that is, fraud or deceit in the sale or purchase of securities or commodities. But it also has a provision that covers fraud or deceit in the sale of real estate, that is, co-ops or condominiums in New York State. So we don't know exactly what they're being looked at, but if you narrow it down to, what does the New York Attorney General have criminal jurisdiction over? It's the Martin Act. And if you look at the provisions of the Martin Act, which are securities, commodities, and real estate, it seems if you connect the dots, that must be what Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, has now in her sights in connection with the Trump investigation.
And when you think about the pattern and practices of the Trump organization, they already lost a real estate fraud case in California where they defrauded people who were buying condos in a so-called Trump development in California. That happened during the 2016 presidential campaign, where all of those people who were defrauded by the Trump operation were coming forward, going public. So it's not like this business is unfamiliar about where the lines are on criminal fraud in real estate.
Sure. Well, as an inveterate New Yorker, until a little while ago, you could see the Trump name, plastered all over hotels and other residences that he had and developed across the city. Many of those have been taken down in light of people's reactions to the presidency. But you can imagine the Attorney General looking at any and all representations that were made by the Trump organization in connection with those real estate deals.
And so in a situation like that, I guess from this distance, it's hard to say who personally has legal liability for those representations. And I guess that would depend on the evidence base.
Absolutely. This is, just because there's an investigation, it doesn't mean that there's going to be liability. And it certainly doesn't mean that even if there's going to be liability, that it's going to go all the way to the top. That being said, it is important to remember that the Trump organization is small and that Donald Trump is a notorious micromanager. So, if there's something there, somebody is going to the fall for that. And, I would suspect that Letitia James, like the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, is going to be upping the pressure on people like Weisselberg to cooperate with the investigation.
So does the partnership now, prosecutorial partnership with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office by the State Attorney General, indicate that what the State Attorney General is investigating occurred in Manhattan?
Well, it certainly occurred in New York State. That is something that, at least in part, it has to have occurred here for there to be jurisdiction. But just remember, this is where the Trump organization is. So, that makes a lot of sense. It's not like this investigation is being, brought in Nebraska. This is really the ground zero for where you would expect a investigation to be into Trump as a businessman to be housed here.
What is the likelihood that Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyers already knew about this partnership in this prosecution?
That's a good question. I don't know that they would know that. This could be something that's taking them somewhat by surprise. We just don't have a lot of insight into the communications that have been going on with the state, and that speaks well of the state that they are keeping their investigation under wraps, and will only unveil it if and when there are charges. But it is a little surprising that we haven't heard anything from the defense lawyers, because if you look at the Rudy Giuliani situation, there you have the defense lawyers taking a very different tack of trying to make everything public and thinking that the best defense is a good offense.
The statement that we at MSNBC have now confirmed is that it says, we have informed the Trump Organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature. We are now actively investigating the Trump Organization in a criminal capacity, along with the Manhattan DA. Was the state attorney general under any obligation to tell the Trump Organization about this change?
No, and that's a great question. I would suspect that the reason for that is, again, increasing the pressure on witnesses to cooperate. It's one thing if you face civil liability, and that's merely a question of money. And for people in the Trump Organization, that's their ways to take care of that liability. But criminal exposure is, a completely, different game. There's no way to buy your way out of jail.
Andrew Weissmann, we were not planning a segment on defendant Trump tonight, but thank you very much for jumping in and covering this for us. We really appreciate it.